Welcome to Brampton Focus. When you talk about the 9th largest city in Canada, it's Brampton. When you're a business and you want to connect with other businesses and grow, you need an association. My name is Michael A. Charbon. Next, we meet the CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade, Mr. Todd Letts, right here on Brampton Focus. And welcome back to Brampton Focus. Brampton is considered one of Canada's largest and fastest growing cities. The mission statement of my next guest is to shape the positive regional economic change of Brampton. Trade, transit, talent are the key issues of focus, in addition to helping enterprises save time, money, and bring opportunities for growth to Brampton. With some 700 business members that employ some 24,000 people, the challenge of working in the Board of Trade is one of great gravity toward the positive development of the people in Brampton. My next guest is the CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade, Mr. Todd Letts. Mr. Letts, thank you for joining us on Brampton
Thank you,
Focus.
Michael.
I'm going to get right down to the nitty-gritty here. The city of Brampton released their economic development plan for 2015-2018. They identified 9 goals that they wanted to achieve, 9 things that are going to help the city to grow, from business engagement, entrepreneurialism, economic growth, foreign and domestic and business development, climate, corporate advocacy, etc., etc. Mayor Jeffrey said that with a strong academic and commercial base in advanced manufacturing, opportunities abound to expand in our presence and in this sector, and that partnerships with business, government, and educational institutes hold great promise. Mayor Jeffrey's been in for about a year and a half now. You've been involved in the Brampton Board of Trade since 2014. How close are we in Brampton to attaining some of these goals?
Well, I think Brampton is really poised for greatness. When I take a look at the Economic Development Plan, I have to say hats off to the staff that prepared it. That's a very comprehensive plan. Mm-hmm. And if we take a look at the first 18 months, last year we had $2.7 billion worth of construction. So, for your viewers, they would know on the industrial side of things, there was a big expansion, 330,000 square feet of the Gap. On the commercial side, we've seen up at Mayfield and Highway 10, the new Mercedes and right. BMW dealerships, grocery, Sobeys opened the new Cello, Freshco, and even in our downtown, particularly in the summer, there's a new vibrancy there. That $2.7 billion in construction is up from about 2.4. So we're trending all the right ways, and as I say, I think we're really poised for greatness here. One
of the things that you hear on the street, and one of the things that were promised to many people in Brampton through municipal elections and provincial elections has always been about jobs. When you look at the top 10 companies who employ people in Brampton, number 1 is Rogers Communication, FCA Canada, Loblaws, Canadian Tire, Maple Lodge Farms, Technicolor, Coca-Cola, Waste Management, TJX, and Dynacare, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So Brampton's growth sectors, they've identified 6 of them, being advanced manufacturing, health and life sciences, retail, business, information technology, and food and beverage. The most important thing is to grow business from within. They call it, I love this term, economic gardening. How are we poised in Brampton through business and through government to take these employers, the top 10, and encourage them to have more people employed in Brampton and from Brampton?
Yeah. I mean, you go through that list, Michael, and that really is the who's who of Canada's business community. We're very fortunate to have those names here. And those companies are very good corporate citizens. I toured Rogers recently, new expansion there as well. 5,000 employees, absolutely fantastic. Economic gardening is a concept where most of your growth and development will come from your existing businesses. Michael, it is getting harder to do business in Ontario. When you take a look at the regulatory burden of second highest minimum wage in Canada, second highest WSI OIB rates, spiraling high electricity rates, and then new regulatory burden like the Ontario Retirement Pension Plan and cap and trade. It is very, very challenging.
It's expensive to work in Ontario.
It is. But the Brampton businesses I think are taking a three-pronged approach. One, because the growth in Canada is sluggish, it's a little over 2%, we're looking a lot at trade as opportunities, so new markets. Now, when you think of exporting, you think of large companies like AFA Systems, Packaging Systems. They won an award for that last year.
You think of Bacardi's, you think of Coca-Cola, those things as well,
yeah, exactly.
Right?
However, a lot of smaller companies are looking at export opportunities as well. I think everyone knows Tea by Daniel, and I'm so proud of this company. It's 5 years of operation, a couple of years in its downtown store. It has an opportunity to provide product for the ESPYs, the ESPN Sports Awards, and we are actively helping businesses develop connections in New York State, in Florida, Tampa Bay, as well as looking at emerging markets, which are growing much faster than Canada, Turkey, Pakistan, India as well. So trade, I think, is an important component of that economic gardening. Advocacy on behalf of businesses.
Well, that's your job, right? I mean, you're at the head of the parade for that.
So we are very active at Queen's Park. We did a mission recently and talked about that regulatory burden, and the government has made a commitment to reduce it. They're going to start in the auto industry. They're working on food and beverage next. So that's good to see. Talent recruitment is really, really important. So we have the youngest, most diverse, most highly educated workforce, multilingual here in Brampton, and it's important that we provide opportunities for them. And so we've been reaching out and encouraging employers through new technology, something called Magnet, not to overlook the credentials of foreign trained individuals, not to overlook the young people and their credibility and their credentials as well. And we're trying to pair older businesses with some of the new leaders as well, the Bramptonist Four Corners, the good folks at Lab B, which have a co-space, co-working space.
So one of the Economic Development Committee determinations was that there's 6 priorities that they believe need to be addressed. With just about a minute left, one of them is a downtown Queen Street corridor, and it needs to have economic growth initiatives. With just about a minute left or so, because we've got a lot of things to talk about, is there anything that you can tell us that may be happening in the next little while that will ignite the downtown corridor? We need to get that going.
Yeah, you know, downtowns need customers, and you know, it's often said, and you've mentioned politicians in the city's plan that governments create jobs. I don't believe that. Here's something that might surprise you. I don't think businesses create jobs. It's customers that create jobs, that convince businesses, and we can't lose sight of that.
Spoken like a good leader. It's customers. When we come back, we will continue our discussion with Mr. Todd Letts. He's the CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade. We're going to talk about the big announcement of Go, all-day, 2-day Go, and we'll also touch on universities right here on Brampton Focus. Back right after this. Welcome back to Brampton Focus. A very interesting quote, if you were watching the previous segment, was that politicians would have us believe that they are creating jobs. Politicians aren't creating jobs, and neither are businesses creating jobs. Customers are creating jobs. Quite an interesting statement. My guest here, Mr. Todd Letts, the CEO of Brampton Board of Trade. What did you mean by that? Explain that. I love it.
Michael, I find sometimes in the political discourse that our elected leaders sometimes forget about customers. You know, businesses will hire people if the demand is there. And what it's important for politicians to do is to create an environment where customer convenience is number one. So in our current situation, we are growing by leaps and bounds, 12.5% between 2010 and 2014, the highest, almost the highest in Canada, about 7 points higher than the average urban municipality. That comes with some challenges. I mean, that's good in terms of having demand, but if those people can't get to your stores, if they can't get to your downtown, it's important that we have the higher order transit. That's why we're working so hard on 2A all-day Go. That's why the Zoom bus and an eventual LRT is so important.
Well, let's talk about 2-day 2-day, all-day go. I mean, Kathleen Wynne just announced a $43 million investment to the corridor, basically talking to CN, having them take some of their freight lines and giving them to Metrolinx and creating another freight line. So what they're basically telling us is that Union Station, Bramalea, Brampton, and Kitchener will all be electrified. That will all be connected. So when you think about the downtown Brampton GO station,
Yes.
you're connected to the rest of the province now. Now, it comes into effect in 2024, but still, that's very exciting news, particularly when, as we're going to discuss in one of our next segment, a university, we're talking about a hospital. But more importantly, I want you to address the fact, first of all, what is the implications of 2-day, all-day GO? And we've got, I mean, the elephant in the room is LRT. Like October 27th, 2015, Brampton lost an opportunity. How do you take all that in?
Yeah, well, let's focus on the positives. In the last year, we saw a midday service, GO service from Brampton to Union reestablished. That's wonderful in terms of productivity for business, for our economy. You can go downtown now and not just schedule one meeting. You can have multiple meetings and get back on time for dinner. Getting there on time, getting goods there on time, getting our employees home for dinner. These are all very important things for a growing community. This announcement of CN, and hats off to CN to come to an agreement in principle with Metrolinx, is big for Brampton for two reasons. One, it does make it more convenient for customers to come to downtown, but it also broadens the talent pool for employers here in Brampton. So we've got 16 colleges and universities along that line. This line, what we are calling Canada's Innovation Corridor, will rival San Jose, San Francisco, will rival Tel Aviv, Haifa, and other global innovation centers.
But there's one problem with that, and that happened in October 27th, 2015, when the LRT stopped at Steeles. I mean, Brampton, if you're talking about your talent, you're talking about your university, you're talking about your hospital, you're talking about taking people who work, live, and play in this city and want to broaden out, there has to be connectivity. How are we going to deal with the LRT? Where do you see it? I mean, you represent over 700 businesses, 24,000 people who work in Brampton. What is their appetite? Where do they see the LRT?
Yeah, well, there needs to be an LRT connection to downtown Brampton.
Has to be.
For those businesses to survive in an economy like this, and that particular project, the HMLRT, would have had 1,600 customers embarking and disembarking at peak periods right in our downtown. That goes back to my comment. It's customers that will create jobs and will grow this economy.
Well, when you talk about growing, look what's happened to Mississauga. Along the line, along here, Ontario, all real estate fees have gone up. More business has happened immediately because that's all accessible. Do you think Brampton, did they miss the boat? I mean, Kathleen Wynne has said great things about $43 million. Linda Jeffrey said that as water rises, all boats float. And I agree, it's all positive. But how are you going to get that back? What are we going to do?
Well, that's a question that we should be asking your viewers. That's a question that we should be asking the voters and the taxpayers of Brampton. Have we missed the boat? Absolutely. Between 2014 and 2018, this council has missed a wonderful opportunity. They are now spending taxpayers' dollars, an additional $2.5 million to explore other routes that, quite frankly, are second best, are delayed, and quite frankly, there's no money
in
the
want to spend $30 million to do impact studies, etc. So we'll leave that one alone. Let's quickly transition to the university. Montreal tops North America as cities for university students as far as the 30 largest cities. The Brookings Institute, I mean, this is an independent organization since the 1916 that looks at independent businesses. They say that the growth of a city is huge when a university is brought here. I know that there's a gold ribbon committee. They haven't decided who they're going to go to. Everything's rolling, but I want to talk about the positive things. When we get a university in Brampton, what's that going to do to your businesses?
Well, you've mentioned a number of examples internationally, but we can take a look at some examples locally, though. I had the good fortune of being the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce in Kitchener-Waterloo, and I saw the impact that the universities there had on developing developing and incubating new companies, the growth of community tech, and how that has developed a global innovative cluster there for tech companies. I can take a look at Hamilton as well and see where McMaster has developed the Innovation Factory, their R&T park. So the strategy, some communities can fight above their weight, and some will be disadvantaged.
It's also retaining talent, which is an important factor too.
Exactly. So those communities that embrace post-secondary education, and I sure hope that we can get that. I really would like the new Minister of Advanced Education, who's also the Deputy Minister, Deb Matthews, to issue that request for proposal so that we can get universities bidding and we can get that happening here in Brampton.
And we need to get that done.
Absolutely.
We're having a discussion with Todd Letts, who is the CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade. When we come back, our last segment, and we're going to talk about employment lands. When you talk about developing a city, employment lands are huge. My name is Michael A. Charbon. You're watching Brampton Focus. Come back for our final segment right after this. And welcome back to Brampton Focus. When you talk about land that you are able to develop for business, it's called employment lands. And interestingly enough, Brampton contains about 2,840 acres of what's called vacant employee lands, one of the largest inventories of vacant employee lands in Greater Toronto Area. If you've been watching Brampton Focus, you'll notice that one of our previous guests, Mr. Gurpreet Dillon, one of the councillors in Brampton, was a bit upset. And I quote, he said, "I'm disappointed that council keeps telling our residents that building a city where you can live and work and keep taxes low is not a priority. Instead, this council wants to export jobs outside of Brampton and hand them to other cities and municipalities." And he's making reference to the city deciding that they were going to take a whole bunch of these employment lands and put them into residential. And the unfortunate reality is once they're transferred into residential, you can never get them back. So either it's land that can be used for building businesses and manufacturing and corporate locations, or it's meant to build houses. My guest in our final segment is Mr. Todd Letts. He's the CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade. What would be your take on that? I mean, I know you're the business guy. You're at the head of the parade for getting everybody to do business in Brampton and to promote business in Brampton. When the city council makes a decision like that of eliminating prime business and employment lands, where does the Brampton Board of Trade sit with that?
Protecting employment lands is very important for the quality of life of every citizen here in Brampton. What's really important for a healthy community is if we have jobs that are located near where people live, and protection of employment lands. I'm optimistic about the future of Brampton. I do think that we are poised for greatness here if we can, and I'm optimistic because we're not fully built out. When you take a look at Mississauga, they pretty much are. Lots of the opportunity is here if it's conditional upon a council protecting the employment lands and ensuring that they're properly serviced and that we have a business environment that attracts them. We're ranked 9th in Canada in terms of business attractiveness. That sounds pretty good, but when you consider that we've got the largest airport, the 400 series highways,
right,
the rail, etc., and that neighbors like Burlington and Oakville are ranked ahead of us, we should be in the top 3. And protecting employment lands and ensuring that they're there for jobs for our residents is very, very important to us.
And in all fairness, I want to also represent that the councillors who voted for that are definitely in a position that say that there are lots of employment lands still available, and this one particular area that Councillor Dillon was talking about may have been in question, and he was outvoted. I mean, I think it was 10 to 1 or
Michael,
9 to 1.
Numbers can be misleading.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot when you say 2,800 acres, but when put that in perspective how you compare it to other communities. There's something called activity rate, and it's a ratio of how many jobs are in a community over the population of the community. Because we are one of the fastest growing growing in populations, our activity rate is relatively low. A healthy suburb would have an activity rate of about 50%, meaning about half the residents.
We're 33, 35.
That's right. Yeah, Caledon has done a better job than we have. They're about 55.
The jobs within your city where you're working.
That's right.
So instead of going outside of the city, you're keeping them within.
That's right, exactly. So Caledon has done a better job at about 55%. Mississauga has done a better job at 65%. You know, we're second only to Toronto in home building. 5,500 houses last year. That's like top 6 in Canada. We've got enough houses. Yeah,
but Brampton's tax base was built, and it's profitability coming out of Flower City and coming into Brampton, the 9th largest city in Canada, was built on the houses.
Yes.
So, I mean, one could say that council is looking to continue the tax base. They're not squandering employment lands. Gurpreet Dillon has a different perspective, but as you say, it's always interesting to weigh things. With about 2 minutes left, I don't want to dwell too much on this. I want to talk about some of the good things that are happening. I mean, you really are at the pulse of business coming to Brampton. That's jobs, that's opportunity. What do you see on the forefront here coming? You've got some good news stories coming shortly, right?
I am very excited about Brampton. We've got next month Canon, the national headquarters, opening on Mississauga Road. That's wonderful news. Of course, Peel Memorial Hospital and its high-tech diagnostics and its services for women and children. That's another great announcement for the fall. It seems like every week and month that we're seeing businesses coming in. Genco opened last year, 125,000 square foot in the secondary logistics market.
So from 50,000 feet, if we look at all-day two-way go, which is positive, we look at increased investment, we look at all these businesses coming here, the potential of a university, the hospital, things are looking pretty positive for Brampton, would you not say?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, Money Sense just came out with their livability rankings. We still need to be higher than where we are. We're about 114 out of 209 municipalities ranked, but we did make significant improvements. So that's why I'm optimistic. I think that we've got the good leadership in our business community. We have very good leadership in our health
we've
sector.
got people, the stewardship of business. And I want to give you an opportunity to talk to the folks as the CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade. When you have a business in Brampton, or when you want to promote your business, it's the advocacy of you, your group, and the key leaders within that. Tell our folks at home how they can get involved, and just a little bit more about what Brampton Board of Trade does.
Sure. Well, we are in business for business success, and essentially we try to help businesses save time by connecting them with suppliers and customers, save money through group discounts, protecting them through group insurance. If you're not a chamber member, you are paying too much for things like office supplies and gasoline, and as I say, protection for your health and dental as well. Saving them time, saving them money. We hold events, and we have
information things you bring in
to help you grow. That's right. That's right. To help you grow, we bring in provincial ministers, but as well. And the most importantly is we are your voice. The businesses can sometimes be underestimated because they're so busy working on their business, and we represent businesses to encourage governments to make investments that are strategic, but also to reduce that regulatory burden so that businesses can hire more people. And the standard of living in our community can rise as a result.
Well, Todd Letts, I've got to thank you for being here with Brampton Focus. It's organizations like you that bring businesses together and allow them to exchange and work together. Todd Letts, the CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade. You've been watching Brampton Focus. Thank you so much for watching. Reach us on Facebook at bramptonfocus.ca. My name is Michael A. Charbon. Thanks for watching.